This episode is brought to you by members of the You Run Podcast Network, the Dewey Pod Monster, Voices from the Mausoleum, Pop Culture Reflections Podcast, Video Tasties, Movies for Days, The Ghoulish Gallery, The Aardvark and the Magic Moshi Do Red Dwarf, You Gonna Eat That Crust Podcast, The Girl and the Gay Podcast, The Horror Friendly Podcast, and the Paranormal Mysteries Podcast. All available at yourunpodcast.com. Hello everyone. As you'll notice, I'm here all on my own. That is going to change in just a minute, and I'm going to explain where Heather is and why she's not here for this episode. But we're opening True Crime now with quotes that are related to the case. So I'm going to give you a quote now, but honestly, I never, ever thought would be a part of a case that we would cover. And here it is.
Hey everybody, I'm Joe Exotic. My real name's Joseph Maldonado. The Tiger King, as the world knows me, and I'm listening to the You Run podcast right now.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's time for True Crime. Hello and welcome back to True Crime, the wild and exotic division of the You Run Podcast Network. My name is Scott and I'm going to be joined by a guest very shortly. But first of all, I'm going to explain why Heather is not here. So there was a storm where Heather lives and Heather's house got horrendously flooded and damaged. Everyone's okay, so Heather is fine. Heather is going to be back for the next episode, but her house is not repaired. Everything's wet. She's got nowhere to record. She wants to be here. And Heather, if you're listening, you don't need to apologize to me anymore. Stop saying sorry. I mean it. Stop saying sorry. But Heather is going to be back for the next episode. You can get involved in future episodes. We're going to You Run Podcast on any of the social medias. We're really easy to find. You can give Heather a follow too. She's on Instagram. She is at Wednesday Wine and Horror. If you want to support the show, you can leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this, or if you're watching on YouTube, click like, click subscribe, do those nice things because they really help as well. If you want to spend some of your hard-earned money supporting the show, you can do that too, and you can go and get some of these wonderful pieces of merchandise that if you're watching, you can see. If not, we have wonderful t-shirts and hoodies that are all wonderful. Go to yourunpodcast.com and check those out as well. If you listened to the last episode, you know that we teased that we may have an interview with Joe Exotic, and I'm pretty sure the opening of this, if you don't follow us on social media, has revealed that that has happened. Now, there is so much around this case that me and Heather made the decision to extend True Crime for the first time ever. So this is not going to be a two episode case. This is going to be 4. And there's lots and lots of reasons for that I'm going to talk about as we go through this episode. And there's lots of things that we are going to reveal that if you've never really looked at anything but what the Tiger King showed you on Netflix, is going to absolutely blow your mind. And I mean, blow your mind beyond all belief. Like this, the things that will be revealed across these 4 episodes will change your perception of this case without a shadow of a doubt. I'm not even like, oh, it might change your mind. It will definitely change your mind on where you sit and how you feel about Joe Exotic, how you feel about everyone else involved in this case. This is going to blow you away. But I'm not going to do that all on my own today because I don't want to. And I had someone waiting in the wings who has been desperate to get back on the show. And me and Heather have been really lax at getting guests on. So she was going to come on as a guest. And now Heather's not here. She's actually taken up the role of guest co-host instead. And that is the creator of the Sinister Scoop website, the host of the Ghoulish Gallery podcast as well, member of the You Run Podcast Network, all-round fabulous person and really, really nice lady. It's Tasha. Hello. You need to unmute your microphone though, Tasha.
See, that beautiful intro, and here I am like a noob, like not even with my microphone working. It's fine.
That was brilliant. I could see you were talking, and I'm like, yeah, no one can hear you.
Go listen to my podcast where you just hear my guest talk, and I'm muted the whole time. Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much for coming on and jumping into Heather's shoes for this episode. I spoke with Heather about 10 minutes ago, and she's like, there's no one else I'd rather do it than Tasha, because I know she knows this and she will be excited to talk about this.
I am definitely very sorry that she could not be here. I'll have to shoot her a message when we're done. But I am super excited to be here. So I've been on pins and needles since I listened to the first episode that you guys did. And you mentioned that you might have an interview with him, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So
and it came off. And honestly, when I said it in the first episode, I was like, oh, well, it's not going to happen. I'll be able to share some screen grabs of like the conversation I had with Joe's team, and it'll be a nice little story to tell. And then when it happened, I was like, wow, I'm talking with the Tiger King. We're going to start right back at when Joe got arrested. And we're going to go through that, and we're going to talk about the main players involved in this case and the reason that Joe is behind bars. We're going to share some of Joe's evidence with you, and then we're going to share Joe Exotic's interview as well. And then me and Tasha are going to talk about the things that Joe said, which will lead us into the next 2 episodes, because my God, did that man open a can of worms that I didn't even know was there.
It just blew my mind. I mean, anybody who's watched the show, if you don't feel like so many of these people are just as sketchy as it gets, I mean, that solidified everything. So between watching it again after hearing what you guys have said and watching the bit of your interview with him,
yeah,
it's just a mess.
Yeah,
that's not even a good word.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into it. So back to the arrest of Joe. So he was arrested on the September the 7th, 2018 for conspiring to murder his rival, Carol Baskin. He was surrounded and pinned to the ground by armed officers in a tactical response unit while walking across a car park. And he was remanded in custody, where he was charged with that offence, the murder for hire offence. Shortly after, there were additional charges of trafficking endangered species and killing them as well. Now, this arrest was on the back of a large-scale investigation with so many different law enforcement agencies. It's ridiculous. You had the USDA, the FBI, Wildlife and Game, local law enforcement, undercover style sting approach to try and catch Joe out. The documentary that made him famous shows several elements of this sting operation, and we saw recordings of his friends working with undercover law enforcement to try and bring him down. Yeah. Anyone watching, just Tasha done inverted commas for friends, but yeah, trying to bring him down. Now, all of this, like when I watched it on the show, it all felt slightly off to me. Like James Garretson was one of the guys who orchestrated this sting operation, and he worked with Joe for 20 years before this, and everything just didn't feel right. And they only show snippets of much larger conversations. And editing something is very, very powerful. I could edit this episode to make Tasha sound like the biggest asshole on the planet, and it wouldn't take a lot of things to make that happen, just by changing the context or taking what Tasha said and then editing me saying something different in front of that, like changes everything. And that's what Netflix done, because Joe shared his evidence, and I've now seen the full unedited clips of that conversation where they try and bring him down with a sting. I've seen him stand there and go, well, no, even if I wanted to, I'm $17,000 in the red, so I can't afford to pay you the 10 grand you want to kill someone I'm not that bothered about killing. Like, yeah, it's insane.
And from having worked in law enforcement, to get something on that scale, is a big deal. Like, that many different agencies working together is not a common thing. So they were clearly invested in making this happen.
Yeah, we've spoken about it on the show before, where we've talked about other cases where different branches of law enforcement will actively work against each other because they want the sting, they want the
Yeah.
arrest. And to have all of these working together to, let's be honest, not bring down a sex trafficking monster that's traveling the world, it's to bring down a zoo owner who's not quite playing ball, who may or may not have had an idea that he wants to kill his rival. This is not, it's not Al Capone they're after.
No. And that's how they're treating it. Like, he's like the Ted Bundy of zoos. Like, they have just villainized and just, it's like they've over exaggerated everything.
Yeah, I think they have as well. There are several players to this that we didn't really touch on in the first episode because they need a little bit of time to explain them all. It's a very complicated puzzle that everyone kind of fits into. But the easiest way to do that is to go through them one at a time and kind of explain how they fit in and how they helped get Joe behind bars. We're going to start with a guy called Alan Glover. So this is the man who Joe allegedly hired to kill Carol Baskin. Alan worked for the GW Zoo. He was a handyman. And he's someone that Joe didn't like. And this is something they even show you in the documentary. Like, Joe wanted Alan off the park because he thought he was a waster, he was a pain in the ass, and he just wasn't very helpful. Alan has a criminal record a mile long, and I'm not going to go into that in detail because it is a long and illustrious criminal career. I'm just going to say his first offence was when he was 18, and with most of his more recent offences being up until 2021. So he's still in that lifestyle now. Yeah, career criminal. Now, I am telling you for a fact, which I never do on this show, Alan Glover was not hired to kill Carol Baskin. Carol Baskin knows it too. She even had a video on her YouTube for a while where she was trying to basically capture Jeff Lowe and Lauren Lowe as well. So she had this video up there to make them implicated in this plot to kill her. And the video is a conversation between a former GW Zoo employee and Alan Glover. She took that video down when she realized that she fucked up. It was removed from her YouTube channel. However, thanks to the wonderful people at Joe Exotic's team, we have that recording.
Yes.
Should we share with the world where the man who is accused of killing Carol or trying to kill Carol Baskin says that he clearly was not hired to kill Carol Baskin?
Man, I don't know. It could go either way.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, please.
Go on. You feel
no,
like...
absolutely. Please do.
Do it now. Okay.
I
think Joe's already spent enough time.
Yeah, but he won't accept that what he's done is wrong. Like, he tries to play the innocent card, and I think until he accepts responsibility for his actions, I think he needs to sit in there. Because if he doesn't understand that what he did was wrong, then...
Actually, he was set up from government to Jeff, me. Yeah.
But at the same time, Alan, he asked me to kill her. He told me I could pick out any gun I wanted of his, and it was going to be a free trip to Florida, and he'd give me a couple grand for it.
He told everybody shit like that.
Well, what I'm saying is he had an opportunity to kill her, and he took it.
He would tell even customers, man, you know somebody killed this fucking bitch, I'll pay you. I mean, that was just an everyday thing.
But he meant it is the whole thing. Like, he really meant it.
Oh, I know he meant it, but meaning it and doing it is different.
But he took an opportunity to do it. And don't get me wrong, I feel like Jeff is so much at fault here, too. Jeff should have been in jail with him.
Well, probably me, too. I'll be fucking heading there, so I wouldn't be surprised. I've already told my dad. don't be surprised if I go to prison for a while. So he's like, why? I'm like, I live stars in federal court, and all this other bullshit is now coming up about Joe, me killing him for Jeff so we could get him off the property. Jeff was trying every way he could to get Joe off the property. He said, man, if you could come up with an idea, do it. I showed fucking Jeff, how this could work, and it would work because of PETA. PETA hates us. PETA's always fucking doing something stupid with us. And it was just something bad happened.
So basically, you guys set up this plan to go kill Carol and like let him into it, and then was like, here, he's actually gonna do it, and then that's how he got caught, is what you're saying?
Oh, no, not really that direction, but whoever died first, Jeff didn't give a fuck.
So he wanted Carol dead too.
Yeah, because she's gonna take the part. Now he can shit up a fucking $1 million. He can't even shit up. The only money they got right now is her being a fucking prostitute online.
So Jeff was going to kill Joe and then Carol, or vice versa? It didn't matter. They were both.
It didn't matter which direction they went.
So that is Alan Glover saying that he lied under oath, saying that Jeff orchestrated everything and was trying to kill not only Joe, but Carol. Thoughts?
Oh my God. So the very first thing that caught me was her talking about him needing to sit there to understand that what he did was wrong. If I could send people to jail for doing things that were wrong and treat it like putting them in the corner and making them think about what they've done, like we already have overpopulated jails, it would be a mess. So it just, again, like you said, with the editing and the way people are so slick with things, and I don't understand.
No, and I want to say now that everything we're showing you on this episode, all of the clips that we're playing and Joe's interview, is all completely raw and unedited for that exact reason. Our episode with me and Tasha is not edited either.
It's just, it's insane to me how, and I feel like none of the people involved in this are smart. They are just, it's like, what can I do right now to try to make this happen? And they make no effort to cover their tracks, really. It's just lie built on lie built on lie. And you just have to like dig through all of it.
Yeah, and this is one. So Carol had that video on her YouTube and that audio recorded, and she took it down when she realized, oh shit, he's just basically said Joe is not guilty. I better remove that. And they talk on that about Jeff and Lauren Lowe being implicated in this. And that's where we're going to head to next. We're going to talk about Jeff and Lauren. So so Jeff got involved with the zoo back in 2015, and he was introduced as an investor. So Joe was struggling to keep Carol Baskin at the door. He'd lost his judgment. He owed Carol Baskin $1 million for what he'd done, where he branded up his traveling zoo as Big Cat Entertainment. He lost that case. And yes, he's 100% guilty of that crime, and he had to pay $1 million, and he simply didn't have it. So Jeff come on as an investor because he had money. Now, Jeff had always been around big cats. His grandfather was a circus owner. He had his first cat when he was 15. Believe it or not, that cat escaped and killed a neighbor's dog and was put down by the local sheriff's department, but he has always had big cats. When I found that out, I was like, Jesus Christ. Like they had issues with cats like when he was a teenager, and he's still a big cat owner now, kind of. Jeff has been found guilty of mail fraud. He was sued by Prince. And when I say Prince, I mean Purple Rain Prince, before he even met Joe. So he was using the symbol to put on his merchandise, and he got sued and he lost. I think it's fair to say Jeff is not a stranger to brushes with the law.
No.
And they show that in the series as well, that he's had his issues with the police.
And I love how he tries to spin that into him being like this bad boy, outlaw, badass. And it's like, no, really, you just keep doing dumb shit and you're getting caught. Like,
yeah,
there's
that's
nothing
pretty much
about
the
this
size of
like,
it.
sexy.
Which brings me lovely onto what I'm about to say. Now, both of them now are minor online celebrities. They've got a big following on TikTok, big following on Instagram. Lauren has a successful Fansly and OnlyFans account, which is $50 a month in case anyone's interested. And she has about 2,500 subscribers on each. I'll let you do the maths in your head. It's a couple of $100,000 a month. Now, their social media posts are split kind of 50-50 between promoting Lauren's websites and slagging off Joe Exotic and having a dig at Joe. So I done what I thought was good for the show and was best for the show. So I reached out to Jeff and Lauren, and I had a very lengthy conversation with Jeff Lowe about the allegations that Joe has raised and the allegations they've raised against Joe. Jeff made me an offer, which was kind of a Jeff Lowe offer. And being someone with an ounce of integrity, I said no. Jeff blocked me. And that's all I'm going to say, because that will be all part of the concluding episode to this series. It will be concluding part in part 4. And my God, that episode is going to cause some waves.
Oh, I can't wait. I feel like if Jeff Lowe blocks you, it means you're doing something right.
That was kind of where I was. Like, he blocked me, and I was like, shit, he blocked me. But I don't think he realized, like, when you block someone, like, the messages don't disappear straight away. So I done what Jeff and Lauren do. I screenshotted all of the pictures, and I can't share them on the show, but I can read them. That's fine. I checked.
Yes.
This brings us on to James Garretson. So James was a friend, inverted commas, / acquaintance of Joe. And this is the guy who was working as an undercover informant. You'll have seen this guy on the show. This is the guy who rides around on a jet ski, thinking he's cool.
And the best child's play memes ever.
Yes, he is a child play meme. How did I not have one of those teed up for this episode?
Oh my goodness. It made me giggle so much every time I see one.
He secretly recorded conversations with Joe and introduced an actual undercover FBI agent posing as a hitman. A lot of the evidence that James collected is what led to Joe's conviction. Now, James Garretson's still around. He's on social media as well. He's living down in South Florida. He runs a jet ski business. And there's a few questions that I needed answering. So, like, why did he become an informant? What did he actually find? Because we see only tiny bits. What did he have that was so important? And why would you turn on a friend to instantly go, yeah, I'll do that? Like, because this guy's got no morals anyway. Like, he's keeping exotic pets, he's doing shady deals of all sorts, and like, he's not going to roll on a friend just because. So I done some digging. The answer to the first bit is he didn't have a choice. He was facing prison time himself for various different fraud crimes, and from what I can gather, he was given a choice. Like, it's very movie like. We can make all this go away. You just need to go undercover and help us catch El Chapo, who is Joe Exotic. like, like seriously, like I still don't understand the level they went to catch Joe.
Yeah, it's just so, and I mean, I'm an animal lover, like huge. There are some horror things that I have a hard time watching now if there's animal death. I watch people get slashed up all day long, but if I hear like a dog like whine, it just hurts my heart. So
Yeah.
I'm horrified by, things that have happened to these cats. Because again, everybody forgets, like, at the root of it, like, it's these poor cats that, so many of these people act like they care about, and they really don't give a shit. But like you said, they're treating him like he's an international arms dealer, like,
Yeah.
who also runs a human trafficking ring and 16 other horrific crimes on top of that. And it's mind-boggling to figure
Yeah.
out how they got to where they got.
It is to me as well. Now, my issue with Garretson being an undercover informant is because he is under pressure. He's under pressure to find something. He has
He
to
has to
make
deliver.
something happen. He has to deliver. And this is where my issue with it lies, because his prime objective is to cover his own ass. He doesn't give a toss about catching Joe. He doesn't give a toss about anything else. All he's worried about is saving his own skin. And what they've done is most of it played out in the show. It was they got recordings of Joe saying that he wanted Carol dead. And if I'm honest, that's not a hard thing to do. Like, to get Joe to say he wants Carol to die is like anyone can get him to say that. It's not a challenge.
Yeah.
Garretson admitted himself that it took well over a year to get Joe to do it.
And then
Which-
again, like we said, he's sweet, but he is not a criminal mastermind. And if this was something that he was really that dedicated to and that committed to making happen, why is it going to take him over a year to say something incriminating to a friend or someone he thought was a friend?
Yeah, and like he was very clever. So I'm going to give James credit where credit is due. He recorded everything, like as soon as he was working for the FBI, he recorded every telephone call, every conversation, literally every single thing he'd done. He recorded it all. So I'm going to say he's not guilty of conspiring to send Joe down. He was just trying to cover his ass. That's all he was trying to do. Now, like, if you see what he's doing now, he is 100%. He wants Joe to stay there. But at the time, I don't think he was bad. Like Jeff and Lauren, we're going to be returning to James in a later episode to discuss some of his less noble qualities that have arisen throughout mine and Heather's investigation, because that man's got some skeletons, like some real skeletons lurking in his closet.
I believe it.
Yeah, not as bad as Jeff and Lauren's skeletons. Like, they have literal skeletons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's something really unnerving, like with Jeff in particular, of a man in his 50s wearing a backwards baseball cap. It's like, you're not Fred Durst. You can't pull that off.
That's all part of the bad boy look, Scott. Come on.
Yeah, he's nailed it. Speaking of bad boy looks, this brings us to the one and only Carol Baskin. Now, where did Carol fit into everything? On our next episode, me and Heather have conducted our own investigation into Carol and into the disappearance of Don Lewis. But for this episode, I'm going to give you just what you need to know for now. Also, feel some pity for Heather, because Heather has endured more Carol Baskin YouTube than anyone else on the planet in the last 15 days.
Bless her.
Well,
That's dedication right there.
Yeah, when I spoke to her the other day, she's like, if I hear anyone else say, hello, cool cats and kittens, I may actually kill someone myself.
Just seeing like clips of Carol doing the Dancing with the Stars and stuff. I'm just like, it just makes me gag. So obnoxious. So I can't imagine subjecting myself to all the Carol Baskin, all of it.
All the, I think it was a fair trade-off. So I said, like, I'll take Jeff and Lauren Lowe, and I'll take James Garrison. All you've got to do is just look into Carol.
That's, yeah, that's a lose-lose, man.
Now, Carol knew nothing about the plot to have her killed. Nothing whatsoever. She was blissfully unaware in her flowered tiara and her flowery dresses. She knew nothing about it. And it was actually James Garrison that told her. And he told her for a reason. He told her because he was struggling to get anywhere. After she knew, she used her influence and her sway with Congress and with law enforcement to accelerate the investigation. Now, either her or her team made contact directly with James Garrison, Jeff and Lauren Lowe, and the FBI leading the investigation to put their input into that investigation and handed over thousands of hours of clips and footage and all sorts of other things of Joe to add to that case. Now, you might say it's a fair response. Like, she's found out someone's trying to kill her. I kind of get it. She'd hand everything over. But there's part of it she must understand. Like, she sued Joe for $1 million. If he was trying to kill her, I think there's, like, she can understand his motive, surely. Do you think?
It's so tough because I think too, and I mean, I guess she wasn't really making any efforts to understand him, but knowing what an outrageous, outspoken character he is, like doing whatever he's got to do to get attention, like especially when it comes to stuff for the park and raising awareness for the park, she had to know that there are all kinds of things he would say. And
yeah.
Really, is he going to follow through on it?
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you. And also, she wanted Joe's park. She wanted his animals. We know this.
Yeah.
And is that then an ulterior motive for her? Does that then make her more manipulative than maybe we believe she is? That she's like, actually, there's an investigation going on. If I can accelerate it and use my contacts, I'll get the park quicker.
Well, see, you say that, but we also think she's pretty damn manipulative. So for her to be more manipulative than we think she is would be quite the bar. But I can absolutely, she seems very vindictive from everything that, you know, was in the show and all that. So it's not a stretch to think that she, and I'm sure James knew it too. As soon as he said something to her, that she would just run with it and do what she could to make things happen.
Yeah, which then in turn makes his life easier and takes the pressure off of him a little bit, because he now has this giant team of Carol Baskin's supporters and volunteers at his back and at his beck and call. Like,
yeah,
it's a no-brainer for James. I fully understand why he done it. Now, she does have a huge following. And I'm never going to accuse Carol Baskin of anything on this episode, because Carol is very quick to fire out cease and desist letters and very quick to fire out legal response if you say something about her. So there is no evidence to say that Carol has done anything wrong. What I am going to share with you is a news report that was aired a little while back, that was passed to us by Joe's team. For those of you who are sat there saying, but she's an animal rights crusader, she does so much good for animals. So we're going to share you this clip. It's quite a long clip, but I think you'll be surprised with its contents. Are you ready for another bombshell?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Mission to make you care about animals. If you visit their website, the first page tells you they're providing a home to, quote, abused and abandoned cats. But former volunteers say what you may not know is many of the cats living there weren't in need of being rescued. They were bought from breeders to be bred. For nearly 3 weeks, we've talked to breeders, sellers, and former volunteers and combed through hundreds of pages of documents to to find the real story. Here's what we learned. Big Cat Rescue's home to nearly 150 cats, but many of the cats were not rescued. In fact, at least 30 of the cats were actually born right there at the facility. You can see some of them here in this home video. Former volunteers tell us other stories are, at best, exaggerated.
If it's not a rescue, it shouldn't be tagged as a rescue.
Jim Moore volunteered for nearly 5 years at Big Cat Rescue, even at one point living on the property. But now he and others intimately familiar with Big Cat Rescue say it's time they spoke publicly to set the record straight about the nonprofit and its founder.
She wanted to one day have the largest private collection of exotic cats in the world.
They point to examples like Fluffy the Serval as one of many possibly misleading stories on the website. The website says many of Big Cat Rescue's servals were purchased at auctions where uncaring owners dumped them. And then halfway down the page it says Fluffy, quote, came as a result of the pet trade. We tracked down Fluffy's seller, who told us how she raised the serval on baby food and would have only sold her to a good home.
She was sold as a pet and possible breeder.
We also found the former owner of this cat, described on the website as coming to Big Cat Rescue after a pet shop owner was afraid she would bite children who taunted her. The pet shop owner says she parted with the serval because she was paid $1,000. One of the most convincing pieces of evidence for many of Baskin's critics is this video. It's of tiger cub Shere Khan. If you believe Big Cat Rescue's website, he was, quote, unwanted and uncared for, and, quote, could not walk. But listen to the story Big Cat Rescue's founder told shortly after getting him.
This is Shere Khan. He was bottle raised in a loving and nurturing home.
I want to see a normal tiger cub.
There is one person that knows 100% of what the truth is about Big Cat Rescue. That's founder Carol Baskin. We sat down with her to discuss the allegations. Do you think there's a perception out there that the majority of cats here came out of abusive situations?
I think so.
Baskin stood by her website story of Shere Khan's abuse, despite the video of Shere Khan showing the cub standing on his hind legs.
He could lift himself, but just barely.
But the tiger is only one of the stories that former volunteers point to. They're also troubled by claims many animals on the site, including these leopards, were born into the pet trade. But here's what the website does not say.
The majority of the animals that are listed on the website where it says born into the pet trade were actually born there.
That's because back prior to 1997, that's what we were. We were pet owners. We were the pet trade.
And that's one of the few points where Baskin and her critics agree. Carol Baskin and her husband sold,
We went through a whole range of beliefs.
and bred cats.
He was set on breeding virtually every cat here.
Baskin says she's upfront about that history. The extent of that breeding, however, is described nowhere on the site. That we did find one statement that said no exotic cats have been bred there since 1997. Volunteers who worked there, however, say that's simply not true.
There were some Binturons born.
Binturons are more commonly known as bear cats. Former volunteer Jim Moore says he believes the bear cats' births were no accident.
Was that purposeful?
Yes.
This mid-1998 newsletter announces the imminent birth of Caracals, a medium-sized exotic cat with large pointed ears. We showed Baskin the newsletter.
You got me on that. I don't know.
I understand.
It's not in the list of cats that we currently have.
The list, Baskin says, shows she's telling the truth about the animals here at Big Cat Rescue and that they're now in better homes than they once were. But she does not want us to copy or videotape the list for fear her opponents will, in her words,
Use the portions that they can zero in on.
Of course, that's what's already happening with
this show. That's what's already happening with this show. We're using the clips
Ain't
of
that some shit?
yeah. So
And-
Carol breeds and trade. You go. Your thoughts.
So I don't know, admittedly, how it translates into like the endangered species realm, but I know a lot of people who are involved with animal rescues, and one of the big things is getting animals spayed and neutered. Like, especially, so a lot of rescuers call spring kitten season because that's when, you know, a lot of these cats that are feral or have just been let loose reproduce. And the whole goal is to reduce the amount of animals that need to be rescued so that you don't have that problem. So to obviously still have breeding happening, like I said, I don't know how that translates to big cats and that kind of thing, but I cannot fathom having a rescue where your goal is to save outside endangered animals, but allowing breeding to continue and increasing the burden of the number of animals that you are taking care of.
Yeah.
Hopefully properly, but
yeah, and like Carol not wanting to share the list, I kind of understand it. And does this make her out to be a supervillain? Absolutely not. But what it does show is that she is quite happy to bend the truth to make her organization seem better, if not flat out lie from time to time. Like there is a big cat, an advert for Big Cat Rescue announcing the birth of a cub, and her to go, I didn't know anything about that. Like bullshit. You printed like you run that place. You know all about that
yeah.
leaflet.
I find it hard to believe anything would happen with that organization without her signing off on it first.
Yeah, I just don't see it at all. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break.
There's nothing better than hanging out with your best friends chatting horror movies. At Voices from the Mausoleum, we have programming that covers everything from found footage to gaming, interviews, and even the first horror morning talk show. Come join us. We're all friends at the Mausoleum.
So make sure you go and check out Voices from the Mausoleum. That's Angel and Steve. Great YouTube channel available at yourunpodcast.com. Really, really good. And long-time friends with you as well, not just me. Yeah, really, really cool account. Also, all the other shows, including Tasha's, which is the Ghoulish Gallery, all available at yourunpodcast.com. Now, before we share the interview with Joe Exotic, I want to give a bit of a disclaimer. This is an opinionated show. We bring you the facts, but also our thoughts. And our thoughts are just that. Nothing I'm saying here is an accusation against anybody. And anything I say on this or any other episode is not an accusation. Even if I say, I think this person done that, that is my thought and my opinion. And the reason I'm doing that is because Joe has opinions as well, and he is entitled to them. And I think it's fair that we all get to hear them. So I'm going to drop me and Tasha off the screen so you can see this in the full glory that it is. And I'd like to welcome our guest to the show, Mr. Joe Exotic. I want to kick this off straight away. I've been through all of your evidence that you've got out there, and I want to know how you feel about the fact there's people who've openly admitted they've perjured themselves, yet it doesn't seem to have changed your outlook on what's going on.
Have you seen the additional new evidence that I put on joeexoticofficial.com?
Yes, I have.
Well, have you seen the 2 videos that Carol posted even?
Yes.
That I put on? Isn't that crazy that Carol Baskin herself put on her own YouTube channel videos that she has had in her possession for 2 years, proving that I'm innocent.
I know.
And Alan tells her I don't know what you want to call Ashley Webster, but it's one of Carol's people. He tells her that him and Jeff Lowe belong in prison for everything that they've done. And and I think honestly, Scott, that it goes way deeper than me. I think they've got some really dark secrets on each other. And if you've seen the Ghost Hunter crap that they put out there when Tiger King first came out, and if you know Jeff as well as I know Jeff, and he likes to put the guilt on someone else for everything he's done, I truly believe that him and his wife overdosed a girl, and there's a body buried at that park. And he was praying that the Ghost Hunters people would find it and pin it on John Finlay. It's just, this goes that dark. But, the things that upset me, man, and I'm never going to get this all out in 15 minutes. But
no, I know.
The thing that upsets me is our president right now, President Joe Biden. can trip all over himself to bring people from Russia and other countries that are incarcerated. And, you know, and I have nothing against Brittany Griner, but, you know, she got willingly on an airplane with illegal drugs, and she flew across state lines, and then she flew across international lines, and then she pled guilty, and Joe Biden, to this day, thinks she was wrongfully detained. You know, well, what about all of the people, including me, you know, in America that are wrongfully detained, and people that go to Colorado and buy weed at a legal dispensary and go across those state lines into Oklahoma or Wyoming, and they're doing 6 years prison term in America? Why aren't they wrongfully detained?
Yeah.
You know, we just completely forget the fact that the woman got on an airplane in America and broke the law in America, but she got away scot-free.
Yeah,
you know, and we let go one of the most dangerous men in the world, arms dealers, in order to get her back. But we can't get him and Kamala Harris to uphold their campaign promise to do prison and justice reform, because I'm telling you, 165,000 of us that are in federal custody right now live like river rats.
Yeah, and what is your plan to try and gain your freedom now? Are you still appealing? Is there things you can do? What can we do to try and help you?
Well, I'm on appeal right now with the new evidence in Denver, Colorado, and I'm on a motion, what they call a motion 2255, which is ineffective assistance of counsel, because the lawyers that I had, the free lawyers that were provided by the federal government, didn't do their job. I could have represented myself better than they did now that I know everything, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'm on, my lawyers in Dallas are writing up a writ of habeas corpus, which is the government is holding me when they know that I'm innocent. So we got three things in the works, but you know, right now it's election time, and the best thing that can happen for me right now is everybody just stand up and say, look, enough is enough. You know, look what they're doing to Donald Trump right now, okay? And granted, I'm not really a big fan of Donald Trump. You know, he's a good businessman, and he was a half-assed decent president. But he left me here just like everybody else did. But 91 felony indictments, okay? You know, do they have to go to that extreme? They charged me with one charge when they arrested me, okay? And the Constitution says that I have a right to a fair trial. The minute I asked for a fair trial, they superseded me with 20 more charges, making sure that something's going to stick to put me in prison. It wasn't about what I did wrong. It was about making sure that they got me in prison. And then I have an issue with you're tried by a jury of your peers, okay? My peers are people in the zoological industry, veterinarians, agriculture people, and stuff like that. Peers are supposed to be somebody you look up to, okay? Not 23-year-old housewives and 23-year-old secretaries that side with PETA, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think I got a fair trial from the beginning, but, you know, it's welcome to fucking America.
Yeah, and how do you feel now about everything that's happening? What's your feelings towards sort of Carol Baskin and to the show, The Tiger King? Because I know that they stiffed you on payments as well, and you've had a real rough run there as well.
Well, you know, first of all, people got to understand, you know, me and Carol did what me and Carol did to each other because it made money and it got us followers. She told everybody that I was an animal abuser because the animal rights people gave her money and the animal rights people followed her. I told everybody she was batshit crazy because she is, and I investigated her killing her husband because I believe she did. I have her original diary. I have his power of attorney, original power of attorney. I have everything. And the woman did it, okay? She just got away with it because she puts money in the right pockets, and her brother was the sheriff, you know, working for the sheriff's department at the time. And then I flew to Florida, and it's on my YouTube channel. If you look under Carol Baskin Fraud under my YouTube channel, I flew to Florida and provided the sheriff's office with 60 deeds that she frauded, notary fraud, which is felonies in Florida, 60 felonies, and they didn't even slap her hand. You know, she's just a very powerful woman, and she got away with it. But did I actually really just hate Carole Baskin? No. You know, the thing that Netflix or nobody showed, because I was in jail when Netflix showed, filmed all of that. They used my old footage from my show is where you saw me in Netflix. But what nobody ever said, I was one of the first podcasters in the world. I had my JoeExoticTV.com, which nobody had ever done before. Okay, and we ran across some really strange people on Facebook called the Diaper People one night when we were doing a show, and they dared me to wear a diaper. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was like, you know what? I was like, we're doing this for the animals, so I dare you to pay me $500 to wear a diaper. Okay, so they did. So me and Rinky both wore diapers on one show, okay? So that got us started because we had a live chat room in our podcast, and then we had a place where people could dare us to do things and pay us to do these dares, and that's how we made money for the animals. And let me tell you, there was nights we made $10,000 a night doing dares, and somebody dared us to get a blow-up sex doll and dress it up like Carole Baskin. And that's how that all came about. It wasn't just Joe's looking to kill Carole Baskin. It was all made for TV and all made for show. And unfortunately, they used that against me and made me look to be this crazy bastard.
Yeah.
That would be like putting the guys on Jackass on trial for murder and making them look like that's their everyday life instead of TV. But the sad thing about Netflix is we now have, and if you've listened to most of the Tiger Tales that John Phillips has put up, we now have phone recordings of the producers, Eric Good, with Good Productions that made Tiger King, paying the witnesses during my trial to keep the scenario going so he could make a damn movie to destroy my life. And then because I was in prison when Netflix came out and they were filming it, my husband at the time, Dylan, signed the contract. So he signed the contract. He got the 2%, and the motherfucker left me here and run off with $2.6 million, and then turned around and sold all my clothes to a museum in Las Vegas to boot. So right now I have nothing. I don't even have an address to go back to because they took the doors off of my house and let horses live in my house and completely destroyed the zoo. My niece and my brother, I was shocked when John Phillips dug up all the evidence that my niece and my brother actually helped Carole and the feds do this to me. But it all comes down to greed, Scott. My niece put my parents in separate nursing homes when everyone in our family knew that my brother that died in 97 wanted nothing but them to stay home. He never wanted them to go to a nursing home. And the minute they got me arrested, they slapped them in separate nursing homes. They couldn't talk. They took their house. They took their land. They signed the zoo over to Carole. And they destroyed Joe. So congratulations.
Yeah, but you're in a position now where you are going to fight back. You are going to appeal. And with the evidence that you've got, I'm assuming you feel you've got a good chance of coming out the other side of this a free man.
I hope. It all boils down to lawyers, Scott. And, lawyers have really drained me and screwed me over so far. The first batch of lawyers was nothing but wannabe movie stars for Tiger King because they were filming for Tiger King at that time. They drove around with great big buses. They rented helicopters and all that bullshit. And people think that I'm the one that was asking Donald Trump for a pardon, and I'm the one that got the big bus and all that shit. I was in solitary confinement in federal prison in Fort Worth, Texas, and I couldn't even use a telephone while these guys were running around renting big buses and going to Washington and pulling all these stunts. Yeah, all they done was they did this again TV cameras for Tiger King for series 2, you know, and unfortunately, television destroyed my life to a point. You know, it made me famous. I'm probably one of the most famous people in the world. I'm getting videos, calls from Australia and Scotland and Belgium and Iceland and everywhere. And I can't thank my fans and my supporters around the world enough that see the truth behind all of this. But I would trade all of this just to go home.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's your goal when you do eventually get released? What do you want to do when you're out? What's next for you?
Well, another thing that the movie never described, and nobody ever told the story, also was, you know, I left the zoo voluntarily in June 16th of 2018. I walked away from everything I built. And I took Dylan and I came to Pensacola, Florida, actually Gulf Breeze, and I rented a house, and I got a job at Peg Leg Pete's on the beach washing dishes, and I was perfectly happy, you know? And 3 months later, they still had to concoct this bullshit and come after me and destroy my life after I handed them everything. So it wasn't about getting the zoo. It wasn't about, it was about destroying Joe. And that's what they did. So if I make it out of here alive, which I really kind of have my doubts on days because I've been through prostate cancer. I have lung cancer now. I'm fighting for my life. My parents have died. I've lost my house. I've lost my marriage. I finally met a decent man in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and I wanna move there. Call that home because his family thinks I'm just shit. You know, they all love me, and I want to get a house back here in Gulf Breeze, Florida, too, to call my second home. And I've been offered a concert tour, and that's what I want to do. I want to do concert. I want to do my music, and I want to go back to helping sick little kids. That was my thing: helping animals and helping sick little kids.
Yeah, and again, that's something I've seen. A lot of charity work you've done, again, didn't get mentioned in the documentary. You used to do food drives and everything.
Yeah, I open the zoo every Christmas, you know. And we got 1 minute left. I open the zoo every Christmas and every Thanksgiving, and I cooked dinner for people that had nowhere to go and did it all for free. I did an Easter egg hunt for free, 10,000 egg Easter egg hunt. I did Tigers for Tots, where I went to the hospitals for little kids. I did the Animal Miracle Network, where I granted last wishes. I did so much, and nobody gave me credit for nothing. They gave me a life sentence.
Yeah, well, most of us know, Joe, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. And as I said before, I'm going to get this to as many ears as I possibly can for you.
Scott, I'm here for another 23 days for sure, so call me back so I can keep talking. This is the first chance in 6 years I've had to talk, so I love each and every one of your listeners. Be sure and listen to the Run Podcast, man, because Scott's going to help me get out of here. Thank you.
All right. Thoughts?
Man, I'm so conflicted on whether the show was the best or worst thing that could have ever happened to him, because on one hand it's put him in a position to hopefully better argue his case, but on the other hand it's turned into a situation where the majority of people are going to benefit from him sitting right where he is and them continuing to use his name and what they got out of the show for their own monetary benefit. I don't see where any of them have any benefit to him getting out. So
no, like one of the things that really hit home for me is when Joe's saying about the public defenders he had being part of the second season, and like he knew none of that, and they're just running around, and Netflix are paying for buses and paying for limos, and this whole big campaign of get Joe a presidential pardon, he wasn't behind it at all.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're really that invested in trying to get somebody out of prison, the best thing you can do is invest every penny you've got into a legal defense. Like, all the lawyers' fees and all the money it costs for research and all this other stuff. Like, that money would have been so much better spent paying people to just go dig. And instead they were, putting on a big show and everything else they had to do for the cameras. So that's infuriating.
His legal team now are doing a lot of digging, and I'll put the link to Joe Exotic's evidence that is public record in this episode, so everyone can go and have a look. Carol and Joe having a working relationship blew my fucking mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because they just paint it as them having always been these like this arch nemesis relationship. And of course, that's, like we keep saying, that's the power of editing and the way they skew things and context. And
and it's no different from like when rappers have beef, like when Eminem had a beef with what's his name, Machine Gun Kelly. Like, all of that is just to sell records. Like, I'm going to do a track where I have a dig at you. You're going to do one where you have a dig at me. We both make millions of dollars. And Joe and Carol was exactly the same setup.
It just, I just don't understand how it's snowballed so far out of control. With everything, it's like one little slip here and one little slip there, and then next thing you know, it's just this full-blown disaster of a shit show upon shit show. Just and having all of this context and rewatching, like I rewatched season 2 the other day, where they've been following the lows and everything else. And one thing I would have liked to have seen at this point is all of these people swear that they're the ones who know what's best for the animals. And I have yet to see any of them who have like any official training or any really good qualified staff. Like, no offense to the staff that they've hired and everything, but where are the people who would best take care of these animals? And they try to use that as, they're the compassionate ones and they're the ones that are trying to do the right thing. And it's just so obvious that they're just out for themselves. Every single one of them are just out for themselves.
Yeah, that they 100% are. I mean, like, talking to Joe, like when he's talking about that he's been really sick and like he's lost his house and he's lost his parents and like all of that, I feel so sorry for him. This guy just wants to go home. Like, it's really easy in my head to release Joe Exotic. You release Joe Exotic, he can never house big cats again. He can never look after exotic animals again. You put him on some other restrictions of movement and things like that. You stick a tag on his ankle. Like, he's not a danger to anyone. He's not going to come out and go straight after Carol Baskin or after Jeff and Lauren Lowe or anything like that. He just wants to go home.
And the whole thing with Dylan, honestly, that broke my heart, because from what you see before everything gets popular to after, I feel like if none of this ever happened and there wasn't the celebrity of it and all that Dylan very well may have stayed with him. Yeah. But when you wave a paycheck like that in front of somebody's face, and the fame and the fortune and everything else that he can get as a benefit, he'll be able to ride that Joe Exotic's ex-husband wave for decades probably. And
and the same as with this person. Yeah, the same as everyone involved in the show. And when we go into later episodes, next episode, in episode 4, we'll be talking about all of these people who are riding this wave and not even trying to hide it, like shamelessly riding this fucking wave, like shamelessly. Now, you heard at the end of that interview, Joe said that, call me back because I'm still here. I spoke with Joe's team again, and I did call Joe back, and I got a longer interview. That interview is going to air on episode 3 and episode 4. We're going to split it into 2 parts. And this first interview I didn't ask him anything that was difficult for him to answer. because I wanted this to give Joe it was the one opportunity he was going to get to speak. I wanted to let him say what he wanted to say.
Yeah.
In the next 2 episodes, I do ask him harder questions. We do talk a lot about the allegations of the animal abuse. We talk about the killing of the 5 tigers, and we get Joe's side of the story for that. We talk a lot more about Jeff and Lauren Lowe, James Garretson and Carol Baskin, and I push a little bit harder. And Joe was very good, but you can tell in the interviews it wasn't not all of it was a particularly nice interview for him. So I'm going to put that precursor out there. Like, if you're listening to this going, fuck man, you didn't ask him anything difficult. I did, but you need to come back for the next one to hear what I had to say. So we've got 2 more episodes. One comes out on the 1st of May. One comes out on the 15th of May. We need so much time to deep dive on this. Like, there is so much, and because everyone involved in this, everyone recorded everything, everyone saved their text message, everyone shared it on their various different social medias and on various different platforms, and they've all done podcasts where they've said different things and then they've said something else on another one. Like, I've had to consume all of that, and so has Heather, to be able to give you the episodes that are coming. And like, if this episode's blown your mind, what's coming is gonna absolutely melt your brain. This is the You Run podcast. We ask for everyone else's input. And before I'd done the interview with Joe, deliberately before I released any episodes, I asked some questions. And the reason for this is, after this episode and episode 3 goes out, I'm going to ask these same questions again and just see how much people's minds have changed. So firstly, we asked if you thought Joe killed someone or paid someone to kill Carol Baskin. 89% of people who answered that poll said yes.
It's a high percentage. That's higher than I expected, honestly.
Yeah, I think that will go down with what's coming. I also asked you if Carol Baskin killed her husband, and 78% of you said yes.
That I thought would be higher.
Yeah, after you've listened to episode 3, that will be higher. 100% that number will go up.
Even with the show, like when they're talking to his family and former associates and everything, like I expect it to be higher.
The crazy thing is, like, the show tried to edit Carol to be the hero. Like, if you watch that show, it's edited that Carol is Big Cat Rescue. She is the good guy in this story. And people aren't easily convinced. Like, she was not the good guy. She was doing exactly the same shit as Joe and just branded it as a rescue center. It's the only difference. We also asked for your opinions on Joe Exotic and the crimes he was committed of. So Kay Lampe 5678, and this is Kate, listener to this show and to Horror Movie Review, said, animal abusing piece of shit. Now, this Kate, it was this comment that made me ask the questions that I ask in the next episode, because I can see how people see him that way. And I pushed hard and I asked a lot of questions around like what legalities there are to keep the big cats, how's he regulated, these kind of things. And he answers the incident of killing the 5 tigers in a way that I hope maybe will change your view even just a little bit. Lumberjay Reviews. This is Jay of the Girl and the Gay podcast, a member of the You Run Podcast Network. The Gay Billy Cyrus. I think we just killed. Did we kill you with that?
This is fantastic. Kudos to him for that.
We've got VHS from the Crypt, who obviously is Mark, who is my co-host over on Horror Movie Review. The man is a legend. And while I'm talking about Horror Movie Review, if you're listening to this on release day, when you finish listening here, go and listen to Horror Movie Review this week, because we review Beetlejuice, and it is one of the best episodes we've ever done.
Oh, that's a high bar. So that's
it's up there with as funny as Deadstream.
that episode will just forever live rent free.
Yeah, and if anyone's not seen that and you're watching, as a something that a byproduct of the Deadstream episode, we have a new piece of merchandise available in our store, which is this. The Colonel Cockring, Who Do You Think You Are Pinhead t-shirt is now available at yourunpodcast.com.
Bestseller. Bestseller.
We've got Dewey Podmonster, another member of the You Run Podcast Network. Americans at Their Finest.
That's
we have
the truth right there.
Yeah. This Girl Loves Horror. The zoo part made me angry. The animals were treated terribly. I think if this show had come out during lockdown, it hadn't come out during lockdown, no one would have cared. We were just bored.
As a true crime fan, I feel like that it definitely would have still made waves. I think the waves just may have been a little bigger because there was so little going on. Everybody being stuck at home.
Yeah, I mean, lockdown, we had nothing on TV. When this come on, this was like, oh my God, it's something fresh and new, and it's wildly insane. And that's Becky. She's one half of the Girl and the Gay podcast. Now, having spoken to Joe, I don't think he's guilty of murder for hire. I'm going to reserve the rest of my opinions for the further episode as we go one through. But I'm telling you, he's not guilty of that crime. He's guilty of crimes, but not that one. I went one step further. After asking you what you thought of Joe, I asked what you thought of Carol Baskin. Funnily enough, it was the same people who responded because they were fully invested in this. We had VHS from the Crypt. Joe should have killed her. Bitch be tripping.
Mark, that's not nice.
It's not nice. Dewey Podmonster, Florida. Enough said.
Yeah. Have you ever done the thing where you get bored and you Google like Florida man headlines?
Yeah, so there's a game that you can play that everyone needs to play right now. When you're listening, go on your phone, put in your date of birth, so the day and the month you were born, and then Google that followed by Florida man, and that will tell you what your Florida man done on your birthday.
Yep, it's the fact that it has spawned an entire character is very telling.
This Girl Loves Horror. Carol Baskin was away with the fairies. Yeah.
She would like to be. With her little crown. And...
The thing is, Carol always comes across to me as like, I don't know, she comes across as someone who, when the doors are closed, she's taking LSD, she's running around naked, she's smoking weed. She strikes me as that sort of person.
I think she might be more chill if that was the case.
Maybe.
I think that would like leak out.
And then we've got randomly Eric, who is Mark's arch nemesis on Instagram, killed her husband, whacked him. Eric, if that's what you believe, you are going to absolutely love episode 3. Because we go fully into that. We go into the depths of everything that is Carol Baskin and Don Lewis. We basically treat that like a whole new case. It's like the Don Lewis episode where we go through the disappearance and potential murder of Don Lewis. I share some nice aerial shots of Big Cat Rescue and where the septic tank is that he's allegedly buried under. Refute some of the claims and the dates that Carol Baskin said that went in. Review some of the claims that Carol Baskin said all along, and catch her lying multiple times on her YouTube channel.
You guys are MVPs for for going through all that.
Not me. I'm hands up. I have done no Carol Baskin work whatsoever. It's all Carol. Carol. Also Carol. Sorry, Heather. Jesus, I just called Heather.
Wow.
Carol.
Oh, she's gonna fight you. Ooh.
Do you want to do the next? Do you want to do the next episode so I don't get murdered?
I was gonna say next episode it'll be me and Heather.
Heather has done all of the Carol Baskin work. She has consumed everything Carol Baskin from 2012 through to pretty much modern day. She has heard Carol Baskin say, "Hello, cool cats and kittens," more times than anyone else on the planet at this point.
I should mess it when
sorry,
I go to check on her and see how she's doing. I should be, "Hey, cool cat."
No, just don't. I think she resents me enough for asking her to do. She's like, because Heather does a lot of work for this show, and she always says to me, "Look, if you ever want me to focus on one particular thing or really dig into it, let me know." And with this, I went, "Oh yeah, Carol Baskin." She's like, "Yeah, no worries at all." And like 2 days later, she's like, "This is awful."
So much regret.
And on that note, we are going to call time on this episode. So the next episode, we are doing our investigation into the disappearance of Don Lewis, which also means a deep dive investigation into Carol Baskin, courtesy of the hands of Heather. In doing that, we also need to look into Big Cat Rescue. We need to look at her relationships with the FBI, other government agencies. Big spoiler, this next episode may potentially land us a cease and desist letter. So I am going to preface it one more time by saying it's opinions. It's opinions.
Kind of like getting blocked by Jeff Lowe. I feel like that's how you know you've made it, is when they're like, "Yeah, I need you to shut your mouth."
Yeah, I don't want to cease and desist, though, because I'd have to take the episode down. So I definitely don't want that. So I'm going to be very careful on how we word things. And I'm not joking. Like Carol will send legal letters to everyone. It's like she's got them pre-drafted. Like the amount of people the amount of stuff I've read online where she's just been like, someone said something and she's like, cease and desist, defamation of character lawsuit, like all of this stuff. Before we air that episode, I'll actually be looking into the legalities of how she would do that from the United States to here, just in case.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Like you said, everybody's entitled to their opinion, whether other people like it or not.
Yeah. And she's not going to like my opinions.
Well, that's why we love you guys, because you don't just go with the flow. So
no, we don't. A huge thank you, Tasha. Thank you for coming on and filling Heather's shoes for this episode.
Absolutely.
Your sales pitch now. Tell everyone all about you and where they can find you and how they can follow you and how they can support the Sinister Scoop and the Ghoulish Gallery and all of the other wonderful things that you do on a daily basis.
Oh my God. I feel like it's a constantly growing list because I'm always finding new things to torture myself with. Instagram is the Sinister Scoop, and that's where I share all the podcast stuff too, because I run too many social media accounts already. Twitter, we've got Sinister Scoop 6, and that is also where I'm sharing podcast stuff. So, and then it's thesinisterscoop.com, and we have reviews from Becky actually on Thursdays. She does her Throwback Thursday for us. And I think that's most of it. Oh, and I'm wearing a Sinister Scoop t-shirt. So
that's cool.
Go get one of those. Everything goes back, kind of like you guys, everything goes back into costs and all that good stuff, because websites and everything are not free. So
no, they're not, unfortunately. And you've undersold yourself, as you always do. You always go, "Oh yeah, we do a couple of bits." The Sinister Scoop website is a news website that covers everything horror, from books through to movies. There's reviews, there's blogs, there's articles, there's like anything you want for horror is on the Sinister Scoop. Go and have a look.
We are officially expanding into YouTube. We haven't really made that super public yet, but we're gonna make the leap.
Do it. Definitely do it. And while I'm talking about that, hello to anyone who's watching us on Rumble, as this was one of the first episodes we've ever aired on Rumble. So hello to Rumble people. Rumble is like YouTube, but different. it's kind of YouTube, but somewhere else. So if you're watching on Rumble, hello. I don't even know if you like. I don't know if you comment. I don't know if you subscribe. I haven't got there yet. This will be done after I've done this episode. So hello, if you're on Rumble, say something in the comments. I'm sure they've got comments there. A huge thank you again, Tasha, for coming on. I love having you on the show, and I think this was the perfect episode for you as well.
Always an honor to be on. And again, sorry Heather couldn't make it. And I will definitely have to. Now I need to check on her well-being, not just because of the storm, but because I know she's been so immersed in Carol Baskin land.
Heather, we love you, and we will see you for the next episode where we talk everything Carol Baskin. Thank you everyone for listening. A huge thank you to Joe Exotic for taking the time to come on the show. A huge thank you to his team as well for sharing all of the evidence with us and sharing all of the messages. I've spoken to Joe Exotic's team now for probably about a month, like every single day. We've had discussions, and a huge thank you to them, and a huge thank you to Jeff and Lauren Lowe, whose Instagram back and forth will make the finale to this one of the best episodes we've ever put out. And thanks all for listening. Leave us a 5-star review, and we will catch you all next time. See you all later.